Hello, I'm Li Hao. So I just read this article on CSS tricks by Chris Coyer himself. This very funny article about using inline styles as classes. So what is it about? Let me show you an example so that it's better to understand that way. So for example, if you have this div with inline styles, a lot of times, your pesky colleagues will tell you that, hey, don't use inline styles, use class names. And say, okay, sure. How about I'm gonna just change this style to class, right? So I'm using a class name. But of course, you have to make sure that this is a valid class, right? So, wait, you say like what? How do you even make sure that this is a valid class? Isn't this like a CSS, inline styles, inline CSS? Yeah, but this, if you look at here carefully, this is like in class you can have space separated class names, right? So if you look at this carefully, it's actually two classes being applied to this class, which is the color class and a hash f00 class. So there's actually two classes applied to this element itself. So if you want to write CSS styles to target them, you will write dot color, and then you have to make sure that you escape the colon. So this will be matching this class, right? The first class. And since you're having two classes applied on the same elements, you want to have a dot and then you escape hash full f00. And then now you can apply color like red, right? And you take a look at here, you have color red back to your elements, right? Amazing. It's a very funny revelation to me. I never thought about that before. So just to show you that you can like target different colors, right? This will be green, right? For example, I'm gonna change it like this. This will be green, and it's gonna work. I mean, once you get the idea of this, right? Okay, so say for example you have inline styles with semicolons, then you also need to remember to escape semicolon. But once you get the idea of this, there's a lot of things you can do with it, right? Interestingly, say for example, maybe you can have a width, say 100%, right? If you write something like this, again, this will be two different classes, the width colon and the 100% semicolon, right? So if you come over here and say width, escape this, and then 100%, and maybe escape, I don't know, percentage sign, and also escaping the maybe semicolon sign, and say width to be 100%. Let's see, how do I make sure it is? Okay, let's just add background color. Okay, let's just make this 50%. You realize that it doesn't really work, right? Unless you have this instead, right? Now we are applying only one class. This is as like one class itself instead of two classes. So now it begs the question about like how is there a limit into this trick, right? We just realized that we can't have a class name that starts with 50%. We can't have a class name called 50% semicolon. But we can have class names like color, colon, things like that, or hash f00. So what is the limitation? So that keeps me thinking about it. So I decided to Google about it. So let's go for a good old Google valid CSS class names. And I found this article from Stack Overflow. It says which characters are valid, and this amazing answer with 1,000 over upvotes link this W3 specs. So instead of reading this, we just go right into the specs itself, and hopefully specs can explain everything to us, right? So all CSS syntax, okay, so it says that it actually allows for identifiers like selectors, class names, element names, right? This can contain characters like A to Z, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and as well as a Unicode character that is 00, A0 and higher, plus hyphen, underscore, right? So if you go for a Unicode table, let's see, just copy this specification. So after some good time of Googling, I found this list of Unicode characters. Here we have, let's see, so this shows us the character set in Unicode. It starts with the first 126 characters, which are all from ASCII. And then after that, you have supplement characters from Latin characters. And then you have European Latin, and then extended. And then you have like some Croatian, Chinese pinyin, phonetic letters, and things like that, right? So from here, I see it says that as long as it's 00A0 and higher, right? So what is 00A0? Oh, okay. So any Latin characters and above, right? And so what are belows are actually Latin ASCII characters, which so now it also includes let's see, alphabets A to Z and 0 and 9, right? So these characters, but of course not these punctuations, right? So punctuations like curly brackets and things like that are not included. You have dash and underscores, okay? And another condition is that they cannot start with digits or 2 hyphens or hyphen followed by a digit. That's why. So you can't start with a digit. So 50% is not a valid class name because it starts with a 5. So 5 is not a valid class names, right? So and then you can actually escape characters using a slash, as well as you can start with a slash, or you can actually slash with a numeric code. Okay, so what it says is that yada yada. Okay, here, right? So you can actually slash 26. So this is actually a hexadecimal digits that stands for, again, Unicode character. So which means that, so if I search for 26, you find that Unicode 26, right? This is a I think this is hexadecimal 26. You find that this is actually a ampersand sign, right? So which means that if you look for a colon sign, it's actually 3A. So you can replace this with 3A as well, and it should still work, right? So that's pretty interesting, right? I guess that's usually how it is. CSS tricks articles are amazing. It sometimes leads us to some rabbit hole to dig more about learning about CSS class names, what are the valid ones, right? So so this explains, so you can take a read at this article. The link will be in the description down there. And I think, yeah, basically I covered most of the interesting stuff, but of course you should go and read about it. There's also interesting ways to work around. For example, instead of using a class selectors, you can also, if you are so sure that this is just a class, you can actually use attribute selectors to select for this class attribute, right? Class is just an attribute, so you can do something like this, color red. This would work as well, but of course you have to make sure that this have the exact match. If you have added an extra space, it doesn't work, but it will still work in our just class selectors, right? Because you can have as many spaces you want in between two classes inside a class attribute. So that is interesting, right? So be sure to read this article as well as those comments down there. You might end up digging some interesting goals nuggets that you never ever expected. So that's all for this video. If you like this kind of video, like for example, it's a bit like a reviewing of some CSS tricks article that I read. If you like this kind of video, smash the like button down there so that I know it, as well as people outside in the YouTube world knows it, because YouTube algorithm tends to push videos that has more likes on top, right? So that's all for this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, so that we will see you in the next video. So see you, bye bye.